Minglawa, good afternoon. We're really sorry for the delay because of the technical problem. And thank you all the panelists for joining this MTN online panel discussion. And thank you to all the audience watching online. And we sincerely sorry about the delay as well. So we are doing this twice a week for the month of May, every Wednesday and every Saturday. So this is the first time that we are doing in English. And as you all know, it's been a very difficult and challenging time for all of us in the tourism industry. Today, we have 4 excellent panelists from hotel and tourism industry with many, many years of experience. We would like to hear their view, their opinion, their suggestion regarding a COVID-19 wave and the future of the tourism industry in Myanmar. So first of all, let's do the round of the brief introduction to our panelists. Please state your name, your title, and a few words of greeting. Let's start with Suki, please.
Minglawa, everybody. My name is Suki Singh. I have been in Myanmar since August 1991. I'm the Managing Director of Myanmar Hotels International and the Vice President Operations of GCP Hospitality. And it's a pleasure to be part of this panel today. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Suki. And Edwin, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Edwin Briels. I'm the Managing Director of Kiri Travel Myanmar, a sustainable travel company organizing trips all around the country. I've been here over 15 years and still loving it. I'm also Managing Director of Lale Lodge, just south of Napoli Beach. It's a community-focused nature lodge running on solar energy. And still very happy and positive about tourism in Myanmar and about living in Myanmar.
Thank you very much, Edwin. Philip, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Philip Kavaris. I'm looking after the Shangri-La properties in Yangon, which are 3. You probably all know the Sule Shangri-La Hotel, which has been here for 24 years. We also have an apartment block and a retail and shopping mall. Thank you for being on the team and looking forward to a fruitful afternoon.
Thank you very much, Philip. Bati, please.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Bertie Lawson. I'm the Managing Director of Sampan Travel. I've been doing this for the last 5 years. We do immersive tailor-made tours through Myanmar. Thank you for MTM inviting me on the panel today, and hope it's some use to all of you listening.
Thank you, Bati. And again, we sincerely apologize to all the audience watching online because of the technical error. So let's start with the first question that I have for Suki. Suki, you have been in Myanmar since 1991. So that's almost 30 years. And you have seen the Saffron Revolution, Cyclone Nagit, sanction, and last crisis in Rakhine. So those were difficult times, obviously. But this global pandemic of coronavirus is different than all other crises. With your 30 years of experience, what should we prepare for the tourism industry in Myanmar? Please, Suki.
Thank you to MTM for all the efforts you're putting into presenting these forums, which are very, very useful for the industry at large. And it's also a good opportunity for us to exchange some views and a brighter platform with an audience. As you say, Sami, this crisis is unprecedented. I think that has become sort of the word that we hear all the time. It's ubiquitous in the media. And the media have also had a very big role in, pushing this crisis into everyone's doorsteps on every device. People are constantly engaged with this. And yes, it is very different from anything we've seen before. As we know, 182 countries out of 195 on the planet are affected by this crisis. All the other crises that I've been part of here in Myanmar, starting from, as you said, when I arrived in 91, we had curfews. We have curfews now again. And then, we had sanctions in 1997. Then we had, obviously, the Nargis Saffron Revolution. I've seen a transition from SLORC to SPDC to NLD. So, 3 decades is a long, long time. And I think what I have learned over this period is that Myanmar is a country of very resilient and strong people. We can rise up to the occasion. Now, as daunting as the current situation is, we need to be prepared. I think the biggest challenge for everyone today is we don't know when will this end. So we have to step back and look at what can we do, because the world cannot stop because of this crisis. We all have to continue living, working, feeding our families. The hospitality industry in Myanmar probably employs something in excess of 1 million people. And they in turn support probably 4 or 5 million people. So we're talking of a very large number. Globally, we know that chains like Accor have closed 62% of their hotels. Marriott has closed 25%. Hilton has closed 1,000 hotels. So we're not alone in this. We are all in this together. And the impact for Myanmar is large, but maybe a bit lesser than for other countries which have much more dependency on tourism, and also much larger revenues are involved. So I think this is a time a bit for soul searching, reevaluating your business, looking at it carefully and thinking, or recalibrating, if I may put it that way, and seeing what should I do? Should I close my business or should I continue? Now, the question is, of course, closing a business comes with a lot of challenges, because you are going to stop, and then ramping up again takes a long, long time. You have to start almost from ground zero if you do not retain your staff. Now, speaking for our company, we have retained all our staff. They've lost a large part of their income, which is the service charge, which constitutes something like 60% of their income, but they get their base salary. So we are keeping them all here with the view that tomorrow, when the market opens, whenever that may be, we can start very quickly to be back there, rather than send everyone off and then rehire. It's really not an easy situation. This is also a time for us to step back and look at what do we do well and what could we improve. Obviously, the biggest asset in Myanmar, and everyone knows this, are the people, the welcoming, kind people. The provided environment everyone talks about when they go back to their home country after visiting here. I mean, it's everywhere in any business. So I think this is a very big asset in today's world, where everything is so mechanical. When you look to the West, people are very different because it's a different lifestyle, different challenges. So today, we have to look at what can we do better. I would have a suggestion that maybe we should ease visas for the future. We should look at rate parity on domestic airlines. We should look at everything that makes the experience in Myanmar not only memorable, but also competitive with people in the proximity of Myanmar, where much larger numbers of people come. But we have a very unspoiled country, with forests, with beaches, with mountains, with culture, with history. You name it, it's here. River cruising, balloons, the whole spectrum. So we have a lot to look forward to. I would also say that we should not engage in fear. We should be hopeful. We should be brave as we are, and resilient, because all the crises we mentioned before, we always manage to come out of it stronger, better. So I think one clear message from me is, let's all work together as a team, and let's face this head on. Thank you, Sammy.
All these great changes, throughout your 30 years in here. And I totally agree with you. The people of Myanmar, these are the unique point. That's what we should be keeping. I think no matter what happened, the hospitality of Burmese people continue to be a great one as well. So now let's move on to Edwin. So Edwin, at the Kiri Travel, you have created many innovative tour program experiences. And many people have said in the post-COVID-19, tourism industry will be different. With this new normal, there will be a new experiences, new product. For tour operator like us and many who are watching online, what product, what experience should we be looking for the post-COVID-19 in Myanmar? Edwin.
Yeah, thank you, Sammy. Yes, thank you, Sammy. Indeed, like, okay, I think we always need to look for new products. I mean, tourism is a never-ending story. So if tour operators still had the same excursions that they did 20 years ago, they were too late anyway. And so take this time in the COVID period to look at your products and see what kind of new excursions you can develop. Of course, in the period after COVID-19, people will be looking at hygiene. And I think hygiene is very important. I think also it's important to realize like hygiene is not important only for COVID-19. In Myanmar, like every year, there's 16,000 people dying from tuberculosis. So I think there could be a silver lining of this crisis that we will have hopefully improved health facilities. And I think what improved already a lot is awareness of hygiene and the importance of hygiene. And I must say, I was very impressed by the Myanmar government to put up hand washing facilities everywhere in the country within a couple of days. So for tour operators, when you're looking at new products, I think look at hygiene, and so make sure that people can wash their hand, can clean their hands, etc. What I expect as well from overseas, from tourists, is that people will be looking for places that are not too crowded, either because they are afraid or because they have been sitting in isolation in a home situation for like many weeks. So I think people will be looking to go outdoor. So for tour operators in Myanmar, I think that's something to look at. New experiences, outdoor walks, go to the nature. And Myanmar has a lot to offer. I also see there's a little bit of good news for Myanmar there, because generally the crowded tourist destinations in the world are destinations like Italy, Spain, Singapore, Malaysia, Bangkok. And Myanmar was always known as a destination which is not very crowded. There's not many people. So maybe we can use this to attract more tourists to Myanmar. Yeah, and I think for tour operators, it's important to realize when you create a new experience, try to tell a story. And the story should be different from something that people can find online. It should not be about visiting another temple and tell when the temple has been built. And then like think behind the big four. Traditionally, everybody goes to Yangon, Mandalay, Bagan, and in the lake. But Myanmar has a lot of other places to discover. And I think for tour operators, it's time to invest and look into those other destinations. And to give you a couple of examples, like look for more trekking routes. Everybody knows the trekking between Kaloa and in the lake, but there's also perfect trekking possible in Sipor or in Loikor or many other places. Another like clear example, I think, is look for Mon Kiyin State. And when you develop programs there, don't look at the Lonely Planet and think that tourism is just bringing tourists from one temple to the other one. Really think about what stories should be told and how can we do more outdoor. And in Mon Kiyin State, for example, we developed like a trip with kayaking through the paddy fields, going to the caves and do something really different. Sorry?
Keyword that we're going to be playing around for the tour operator and also for the hotel industry for quite a long time. And I really like the idea. I think the outdoor going to be a main product that people will be selling. So thank you very much for your insight as well. So let's go to the Philip. Philip, you came to Myanmar in around 2010, and now there are 3 properties under your management. And the impact of COVID-19 on the hotel industry is a huge one. So what action step hotel industry should consider in the face of COVID-19 and your view for the future of the hotel industry in Myanmar? Philip, please.
Thank you, Sammy. I'll try and shed some light on what many people will probably think is a very challenging and impossible task. So let me just talk a little bit about the future. I always think an excellent way to look about the future is to look back in history and look at something that people assumed was impossible. And I was always fascinated with Apollo 11 and how people could get a spaceship up into space safely, get the astronauts onto the moon safely, walk on the moon, and then they had to get them back safely, because if they didn't do that, that whole project would have been a complete failure. And I think that's how we have to approach this COVID thing. You have to look at it in a positive way and say that failure is not an option, and you have to embrace some of the changes. So I'll try and share a few of those with you just to try and demystify it. It's not as complicated as everybody sees, but it will be tough to put in at the beginning. So safety is actually probably the most important thing. Edwin has touched on it, safety and hygiene. Whether you're a hotel, a tour operator, a tour guide, vertically integrated through a whole industry, safety and hygiene is going to be the number one thing that customers look for. I'll share a little bit about perhaps what an arrival experience could look like in the future. Most hotels will probably work with apps that guests will be able to arrive at the hotel in a seamless way. But even that requires you having a contact point with your guests. You're going to have to deal with them coming through a security check. You're going to have to deal with them going through a thermal body scanner or some other process. And then you're going to have to give them the confidence that your property and your reception and your hotel is safe. So a lot of people will probably revert to an app, which means that it's absolutely seamless. You can easily get your guest into the hotel, into his room without touching or meeting anybody. But at the same time, one has to communicate the guest that it's safe. So I'll just share with you a very simple process that can be used in addition to all the hygiene factors that we know about. And that is that you can use a very simple thing as a red dot. It's something that we'll be implementing, that our staff will wear a color-coded sticker, very simple. That means that they've been checked by somebody, their temperature's checked, they're relatively safe to go out, wash their hands, and clean and ready to go into the operation. And we will change those every 4 hours. So they'll have to go to a checkpoint and get rechecked every 4 hours. And the color of the badge obviously will change. I know that sounds crazy, but what it does to your customers and your regulars, if you have regulars, which is our very, very important business, it will tell them that you're on top of it and that the people that they're communicating with and working with and meeting in the hotel have all been checked every 3 or 4 hours. That's something that communicates that you're safe, you understand what you're doing, and it gives them a sense of comfort. I'll take you to the guest room. This is quite an interesting one and going to be quite a challenge for all of us. You're going to have to ensure that your guest is clean, your room is clean and sanitized. To do that, you're probably going to have to leave it to rest for 3 days after a guest is checked out, before you even consider sending one of your staff to go in there and clean the room. You also have to look after your colleagues and make sure that they're safe just as well as your guests. Then once the room is cleaned by one of your colleagues, then a new testing cleaning process will take place. The room is going to have to be sanitized because you're going to have to communicate to the customer that that room is safe to sleep in. Now, there are a lot of new pieces of equipment out there. Some very simple ones that you can look at is the Aqua Snap ATP gun. This uses a liquid reagent, which picks up germs all over your hotel bedroom. It's very good for those small places like TV remotes that are easy to pick up germs, telephones, glasses in the bathroom, and of course the famous toilet seat. So these are just some of the things that you're going to have to start to do and some of the processes that you're going to have to put in. It's going to obviously be a very, very big challenge to front office to leave a room sitting resting for 3 days before you can sell it on your inventory again. But if you don't do it, you're going to have a difficulty in the future. A little bit about F&B. Lots of exciting changes in F&B. We all know that Myanmar loves the beautiful buffets, and some of our hotels have buffets around 90 or 100 meters long, full of people, full of food. That's likely going to be gone. Or if it's not gone, it's going to be very, very different when it comes back. You're definitely going to have somebody there on arrival. He's going to have to sanitize the plate in front of your customer and give you that plate in your hand. And from there, you'll go on probably to what may still be a presentation of food. Likely it's going to be behind a glass panel, or it's going to be in a Perspex box with one person standing behind it. And he will place some food onto your plate, making sure that all of those utensils are not contaminated or used by any other customers. And then when you get to your table, you'll get your linen, your glass, in a sanitized, clean plastic bag that you'll open. It sounds very, very difficult. It sounds very, very labor intensive, but please keep thinking of Apollo 11. If you don't do it, you're going to have disaster. You're going to have failure. You're going to have to find a way to do these things. Everything has to be clean and sanitized before a customer's going to get confidence to come back to your restaurant. I'll touch on public areas, but I won't go into banqueting and events because that is a very, very different arena to play in. But very simply in your public areas, you'll definitely have to start a regular fogging routine, misting of your public spaces on a very, very regular routine. You can buy this equipment very easily and do it yourself. And there are a couple of companies here in Myanmar that actually will do it for you for a contract. You'll also have to have some electrostatic spray guns and misting foggers for those small areas, washrooms, change rooms, lobby areas where people will be gathering. Very, very important that it's visual, very, very important that it's regular and you keep records and that you can show people if anybody asks. It's all about safety. It's all about cleanliness. I'd like to end off with a real tough one that I know all my colleagues do not like, but it's something that I think all the hotels have to do and all the local restaurants have to start thinking about doing this. If they haven't done it already, and I know some of them have, but if the local restaurants don't start doing this, they're not going to get customers referred to them by hotels. And we know how much we need to feed on one another in this business. So food management safety systems. These are independent contractors that people use like Shangri-La. We were actually the pioneers in this about 12 years ago, introducing food safety systems into our restaurants and bars. Everyone thought we were crazy, but actually we were the pioneers. Now today there are a lot of companies that do it, and they will come and check your hotel. They will come and check your colleagues on a regular basis. We have our inspections done completely independently. Nobody knows when the auditors are coming, and we have to get a green pass. Like Apollo 11, failure is not an option with food safety. We have to pass. Every single hotel has to pass. So let me tell you also that it's a real tough one. We have to walk our hotel restaurants every single day in our kitchens. And if you don't do that, we're not going to pass. So again, that is a culture that's going to have to be implemented into all restaurants and hotels. I know that all of my staff and my colleagues absolutely detest this and they hate it. I'm being absolutely honest with you. Nobody likes it. Even in Australia, where my family comes from, people in the kitchen don't like it. But you have to do it. And if I can just share what people may have had of experience up to now and what's coming, what they have now is kindergarten. It's nursery school stuff for what is coming. It's going to get a lot more complicated. It's going to get a lot more onerous, and it's probably going to get regulated in most countries. And it will probably get regulated in Myanmar if we want to succeed and play in those arenas. So please, ladies and gentlemen, look after your colleagues, get them into this, teach them how to do it. And please, it's got to be safe. Otherwise, you won't be playing in this arena in the years to come. A little bit about some questions that I will pose to you. These are probably quite expensive things to consider, but again, they're probably going to be important for you in the future. You know, if I have to ask how many people, and you need to ask your colleagues and friends, how many people actually have a food and hygiene manager? And if your answer to that question is no, you probably need to get one. You're going to have to start looking at a contract audit, an independent vendor. Some hotels today have actually got hotel hygiene and safety managers. There are people that look after your whole product, from arrival experience to departure experience, through all your banqueting events, the receiving of your goods on the loading bay, the handling of your colleagues and staff in the change rooms. It's going to be part of your team from now on. In addition to an F&B manager, a chef, you're going to need one of these people, probably two of them. So please, let me just give you an example that's really, really important, that for tomorrow, the chefs standing on those buffet lines are confident to do it, that your colleagues in the rooms making and cleaning beds have absolute confidence in you that you're protecting them and looking after them. It's really, really important for us to start doing that. So please, when you start thinking about the future, start thinking clean, start thinking super clean. It's really, really very important for you all to do. So those are my comments about it. And maybe just to end off and tell you, you might think it's impossible, and many people thought it was impossible to go to the moon, but they did it. And I know that in Myanmar, we can do it. We've got the absolute best asset, and that's our people. They're willing, they're loving, and they will embrace it if you just couch it in the right way and help them and get them trained. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Philip. What a great information. And this is not only a new normal, it's a whole new world. It's a whole new world. And I think we're going to miss the buffet at these 5-star hotels. So we keep on that. Now the next question is to Bati. Bati, there is a saying, never waste a good crisis. But how does COVID-19 maybe even leading to a positive outcome or opportunity for city and destination in Myanmar? For example, I'll give you the one example. In Kalor, the authority have done the beautiful job. They do the social distancing for the vendor 6 feet away. They got international media coverage. So something like that. What other destination should we have, the opportunity for the post-COVID-19 in Myanmar? Thank you.
Hi, Sammy. Yeah, thank you. I think there's a great opportunity for a lot of the destinations within Myanmar. I think what we're going to see, for a long time, we've had the traditional big four, Bagan, Mandalay, Inlay, and Yangon. And I think as we come out of this pandemic, we're going to see more travelers in Myanmar trying to avoid those places which are known to be congested with groups and a lot of travelers. I think this gives a good opportunity for a lot of small destinations within Myanmar to try and attract new travelers to them. But also, it still gives a lot of opportunity to those traditional sites. Within those destinations, such as Bagan and Mandalay, there are certain honey spot sites where we find a bottleneck of tourists going to, certain choice pagodas and temples and monasteries. And I think for those tour operators operating out of those destinations and for those destinations themselves, what is required is a bit more creativity about how to manage this flow of people and how to continue to be attractive to travelers to Myanmar and find creative ways of dispersing those crowds. It could be spending more time in sort of areas around those centres, so in Silay, for example, or in Yandabo, or it could be sort of doing tours at different times of the day. Sort of, while people are traditionally watching the sunrise and began maybe going and doing a tour of some of the famous temples at that time. So there is great opportunity for all destinations, but it does require creativity, and I think ideas need to be generated now, so to allow time to put this into practice when travellers return to Myanmar. We are going to see less visitor numbers for a while, and I think there needs to be a certain shift in our mindset from high volume and more sort of high value. I think that's one thing. Also, there's very opportunity for destination management organizations, whether that's official or unofficial. Whether that's Dawei or Kalor, as Suki says, we're all in this together. And it requires hotels and tour operators and guides to collaborate, for competitors to become collaborators, really, to both market their destination as an attractive place for the visitors of the future, but also to make sure they are safe and they are attractive to people who have more concern about crowds going into the future. I think also the community spirit that's going to be built during this time of crisis will hopefully allow a stronger foundation for partnerships, for working business partnerships to grow in the future. So I think it's important for, like I say, for these organizations and companies and individuals to keep that community spirit, to support each other through these times of stress, because if nothing else, you're going to need each other when we come out of this, and when we begin promoting ourselves as a place to travel to in the future. And I think just a quick word on marketing as well. Now is not the time necessarily to be doing paid Facebook ads or doing hard sell marketing. But organizations should still be keeping in front of, be front of mind to their possible customers. Whether that's telling stories or showing how your hotel or your organization is helping the people around you in this time. There's a lot of opportunity to show your community mindedness and your sense of responsibility to your surroundings, and hopefully that'll put you in good stead when people begin making inquiries again for future travel.
Thank you very much, Bati. I think based on what you and Edwin were saying, so post-COVID-19, I think probably less crowded places will have a great potential. So thank you very much. The next question is to Suki. Suki, this is a hot question that people has been asking. It's many hotel travel agencies are having a difficult times about the rental, utilities, and then most importantly, the payroll for their staff. And we don't know how long this COVID-19 is going to last. Some said it's going to take 6 months. Others said 1 to 3 years or 2 years. So basically, we don't know. So do you have any take on suggestion how to deal with this issue of payroll, rental, and how should we handle properly for this issue? Suki, please.
Sammy, you're right. We have no idea how long this crisis will take, and we need help. Now, if we look globally, the largest economy in the world, the United States, have put in $3 trillion of stimulus packages into their economy now. That's such a large number that I cannot even imagine how much that is. And then if you also look at the UK, they're propping up the hospitality payroll with 14 billion, or rather general payroll for the industry, and Singapore 7 billion. So huge amounts of money. We need to ask the Myanmar government for what they can help with. So it has to be a realistic demand. We cannot ask for utopical things because the government also has expenses. So then I think probably one of the largest expenses for a hotel that is not paid off yet could be debt service, i.e., loan principal and interest payments. So this would be a time to go to the bank, because no bank wants non-performing loans on their balance sheet, because that's bad news. And like in other countries, Myanmar also has more than its fair share of non-performing loans. So renegotiate those. For the lease, the Ministry of Hotels and Tourism has been very supportive. We have applied to them to give us a break on the lease, i.e. not charge us the minimum lease rental, which is stipulated in the lease agreement. Typically, a lease agreement for at least FDI hotels is 5% of turnover or a minimum. So you pay whichever is larger. So that could be one area. Another area could be to go to the Social Security Board and ask for them to help. They're able to help with up to 40% of the last salary with a 300,000 chat per person cap, for up to 3 months. So that could be one measure. We could talk to the government to look at utilities to give us a lower rate for the interim period. Now we know that Myanmar is subsidizing electricity to the tune of $350 million a year. So it's a lot because the infrastructure investment to produce electricity is huge. But this is a time of crisis. So I'm sure the government would be open to consider options to help us. But also from the side of the government, I think when they give help, they should also have some conditions. They should also require businesses not to lay off all the staff, because it cannot just be a one-way thing. And another point that I also want to mention is that when we were at the end of 2019, in December 2019, as we were looking at the crystal ball, it seemed that 2020 would be the best year ever for us. And the first quarter, for the most part, January, February was pretty good for most of us. Even March was not a lost month for most of us. So we do have reserves from the past. So at this point, we need to be a bit generous and use some of those reserves, because we've all made money in the past. So we cannot just close down a business and not have a longer term view, because this is a marathon, you know, it's not a 100-meter sprint, and this problem is huge and it's not going to go away. I mean, Philip just mentioned the amount of extra costs we're going to have in the future when we come back online. You know, all these safety and health measures are going to cost money, because unlike Apollo 11, which only had 4 people, we have many, many, many people in our businesses that will depend on all this. But we have to do it. I mean, failure is not an option. I like that word. So I think we all have to put our heads together, look at this collaboratively as a group, taking into consideration what can the government do for us and what can we do for the government. So it has to be a two-way street, and it has to be looked at not in one shot, but on an ongoing basis, maybe through a small committee, or some of people who are in constant dialogue with the ministry. And the ministry should also help us with more centralized information about what's going on. You know, is there another curfew? Is it being extended? What are the next issues? I mean, everyone is trying very hard, but I think it would be nice if we had sort of better information flow in some areas. That's what comes to mind for now, Sami. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I agree with you. We are all on the same boat, so we have to be on together. And about the ministry as well, I think we need to have all the constant information get it through in the tourism industry as well. So next question is go to Edwin. Edwin, sustainability is about the sustainability is your priority. It's also mentioned on your Kiri Travel website. And many companies are speeding up with these sustainability effort, but COVID-19 suddenly threatened their survival. So how could we be sustainable in a post-COVID-19?
Thank you, Sami. A little bit also like Suki said, for the strand, also with Kiri Travel Myanmar, we didn't lay off any staff. We keep all the staff because I think sustainability is really about taking care of people. I think the Burmese word is used for setana. If you do good things, you will get good things back in the long run. So the first thing what we did basically is when COVID-19 started, like in March in Myanmar, is going back to the owners of the company and say like, well, we also had profits in the past. This is the time for owners to reinvest some of the profits of the past and to like trust that the future will be good. It's too easy, I think, to suddenly lay off staff. Sustainability is not harder in this period. What we did now is like sustainability is looking at your assets. What do you have and how can you use that more? How can you share that more? So we looked in March, like, okay, what do we have as a travel agency? And that's like an office in Yangon. We have fantastic staff who are good in communication, good in sales, good in operations, and we have a huge network in the whole country. So we said, of course, we don't have extra money to spend in this period, just like it's everybody else. So we said, like, okay, what can we do with these staff and this office? And we came up with 2 social businesses, which we're now implementing. So the staff is actually really busy and learning a lot of things. One is to make a website, which is connecting volunteers in Myanmar with volunteer jobs. So with organizations who are looking for things to be done and connect them with people, because there are a lot of people who want to do things and see that they can do things which is in their interest. For example, we have now people working as a volunteer at animal shelter. But we also like helping the Bagan Tour Guide Association to set up a group of 75 volunteers to patrol the whole Bagan area to make sure that together with the tourist police and together with the archaeological department, that temples are not being damaged in this period, that wildlife is like being held together. Another thing is like looking at, when we're looking at assets, we said like we have all these communities all around the country, and there are a lot of communities who can make handicrafts. So we're now setting up a center for online to have handicrafts, which we're selling within Myanmar, but in the future also overseas. So if you look at sustainability and you look at your company, you think like, what can I do without spending a lot of money? Look at what you have for assets and look what good things you can do with it. Another good thing to look at it now is try to save money, what everybody does. And this is a good period to look at like, how can we reuse things instead of throwing them away? And how can we create more local suppliers? So for us as a tour operator, but also a lot as Lale Lodge, we look now more than ever as like, can we have everything that we offer to the clients be locally produced? I know from other hotels in Myanmar, they look at, can they create a mini bar which is purely local product from Myanmar? Because we need to support more local people and local businesses in this country. The good thing as well from this period, I expect after COVID-19, is that a lot of tourists will be more aware of paying fair prices. I think they will be more open to the idea that tourism should not damage the planet, but like really like be supportive for people and planet. So I think in terms of pricing, people will be ready to pay fair prices. Yeah. And I think the last thing on that, and I hope maybe that's a little bit of a lesson for the tourism industry worldwide. We saw last week in Thailand that, for example, small hotels had problems because big tour operators from Europe, TUI, for example, did not pay the bills and are now saying like, oh, we need to have more credit. I hope that this will be a lesson for everybody in the tourism industry, that it's not sustainable just to give big credits to big overseas companies, because you need to support your local staff and your local suppliers here as well. Yeah, so I don't think sustainability is more difficult now. You can even save money by looking more carefully about what you have, what assets you have, and how can you reuse them or use them more often.
Thank you, Edwin. If you could just stick with me for a while, because there was one question just came up related to the sustainability as well. It's about the from Paul Tapia. It's about the future of the CBT in Myanmar, how to adapt CBT after COVID, and how to be enchanting and keep social distancing. So it's related to the sustainability, and he wants to know what's the future of the CBT in Myanmar.
It's a good one, and it's a difficult one. And I do expect on the long run that people will have trips that really matter, that really like it's not just ticking off the highlights and going to see all the famous monuments and go home. Maybe people will do less trips, but each trip will matter more. And I think it will continue to matter that you meet people in a country. Maybe even more than now. Like, people are more used to doing things with Zoom and do things online. Traveling is about experiences, and the experience is done by meeting people. I don't think we should be too afraid of meeting people. You need to keep a safe distance. You need to have your things to protect, but I don't want everybody to be robots and keep a complete distance. So for their community-based tourism, will definitely have a future, because it's people that make a difference. I must say though, with it, like, I think everything you do in tourism should be benefiting the community. Like, when I look at Lale Lodge in Mangswile, we looked at it, okay, it's benefiting the community because there's local staff who get an income. It's benefiting community because there are local suppliers from the village who make their things which they deliver to the lodge. But it should also like benefit people in the community who don't work at the lodge, who have nothing to do with tourism, who are fishermen and are happy to be fishermen. So we came up with a project to set up a garbage collecting system. Yeah, so I think everything you do should be benefiting a community.
Thank you, Edwin. And now next question is to Philip. Philip, Sulia Shangri-La cater many corporate businesses, and a couple of years ago, your interview at TTG MICE, you said Myanmar is a hidden treasure for business event. And just before this COVID-19, at MTM, we have created a new MICE committee because MTM believed that Myanmar could be a great potential for MICE and event destination in Southeast Asia. So Philip, do you still think there's a chance for Myanmar as a MICE destination, let's say maybe in 2-3 years?
So I've always been convinced that what MICE organizers are always looking for new destinations. They're trying to do one better than they did the year before for their clients. So Myanmar is that beautiful, mystical, and pretty much undiscovered destination that I'm sure is still on many, many PCOs' bucket lists and wanting to send people here. The difficulty we're going to have is COVID. That this disruptor is going to be an immense and significant disruptor to everybody's lives. So when we talk about recovery and what segments of our business are going to come back when, obviously we can't crystal gaze and forecast everything, but I would say and confident that MICE is probably going to be right at the end of the recovery line. It's going to take a while, and it's going to be reliant obviously on flights. And until the aircraft can get flying again and can move around the world, MICE is going to be a very, very difficult segment to go after. Having said that, I still believe that Myanmar will be a good destination. People are going to be looking for quiet, remote, special places in the world where there are not a lot of people. And Myanmar has a lot of those. And I believe that people will still want to come here. It's just that it's going to take us a while for that segment to get back. You've probably heard about these air bubbles that some countries are talking about now. There's one being spoken about now between Australia and New Zealand. Once those bubbles get working as a first phase and people start expanding and companies start growing, we will get into a bubble, I believe it, at some point. And then that's when the MICE business will start to come back.
Well, thank you very much. I think that gives us also hope. Maybe not 1 or 2 years, maybe 2-3 years, there will be a great potential for Myanmar as a MICE destination. Thank you. The next question is to Bati. Bati, this is also a hot topic that people are talking about in the tourism sector, because at Sampan Travel, you have done tour for the expatriate to travel within Myanmar. But many people in the tourism industry said domestic tourism will be the first one to develop after the COVID-19. So what is your suggestion and how the domestic tourism should prepare step by step for that? Bati, please.
Yeah, thanks, Sammy. I think the first thing is going to have to be making sure that travelers feel safe and secure to visit other parts, even of their own country. I know that the Tourism Authority of Thailand is already talking about sort of industry-wide sort of standards for not just hotels, but also tour operators and DMCs to work towards. I think the World Travel and Tourism Council is looking at a similar thing, because as Philip said, it's not just about making sure people are safe in terms of hygiene, but it's also about making sure that they feel safe. Because however hygienic your hotel or your product or your business may be, if it can't be verified, then you may have a problem convincing people to travel with you or to travel at all. So I think I do believe that the industry here in Myanmar should look at that, should look at how together we can come up with certain parameters of what a hygienic business is, because it's not just about being COVID secure, but there'll be other viruses in the future, and it's about hygiene in general. So I think we're going to have to come up with a collective way of assessing ourselves, and then putting that green stamp of approval on those companies that are doing their best to be as hygienic as possible. I think what's also important, even with domestic tourism, is that it's not just about making the traveler confident, but also giving confidence to the host community. We don't want the situation where the tourism industry is pinpointed as the industry that's spreading the virus around the country. So you want to make sure that say people in one state are happy for a whole group of pilgrims to come down from Yangon, and not to feel insecure that these people are going to be bringing the virus or a virus with them. So I think that needs to be looked at as well. In terms of the product, yeah, obviously domestic tourism is very different to inbound tourism. So it's going to be less of the big two-week bonanzas who began in Inlay and Napoli at the end. It's going to be shorter trips, of course, over long weekends and over public holidays. I think the industry needs to look at addressing the fact that people are going to be less confident about taking public transport where possible, and that includes flights as well. I think certainly for those who can, self-driving is going to be a lot more popular in this new world coming up. And as Edwin said before, getting outside, wellness travel. I think even though all these kind of things, these things that were trends anyway, are just going to be fortified by this pandemic. And then finally, I think it's very important that everyone is as flexible as possible in terms of, even if it's possible to go trekking around India in July, it doesn't mean that's still going to be possible in August. This could be a sort of, a back and forth as we come out of this lockdown, depending on the situation with the virus in Myanmar. So I think tour operators need to be assured that their own teams can handle these quite shifting sands as the landscape changes in terms of where and what a traveller can do, but also reassure the client that their booking conditions are flexible and their money is safe. I think certainly in Europe, some tour operators have come afoul with their clients because they've been unable to offer refunds. So I think all companies should be looking at their booking conditions and their terms and conditions and their cancellation policies to make sure the customer feels confident in making an inquiry and booking in the first place.
Thank you very much, Bhatti. I think most of these domestic tourism industry, they're expecting probably around October it will start to develop. So let's hope for that. So now we're going to do a question from the audience. So we have some question from the audience. I'm going to read it out, and then I will assign to the related one as well. So the one question comes from Tim from GM of the Savoy Hotel, and he's asking that how does the panel think about DMC not paying their outstanding bill toward the hotel, and what is the solution to this problem? And should MOHD revoke license if DMC are insolvable? Suki, can you answer for that question?
Sure. I think the commercial relationship between DMC and a hotel or any other supplier is governed by a contract. And the contract stipulates the terms and conditions of payment. Obviously, Tim is asking this question because he's not being paid. So the way to deal with this is that you exhaust the different options of sending reminder 1, 2, 3. If there's no further action, then you have to pursue legal proceedings. And then if after legal proceedings, the travel agent or the DMC is insolvent, then I'm sure the Ministry of Hotels and Tourism must have their own criteria of how they issue a license, and they will then revoke the license. But they cannot directly revoke a license based on a non-payment of a bill to the hotel, because it's later down the road. If the travel agent is not solvent, then I think they will lose their license. That's my take of it.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much. And the next question has come from Putin9, and he's asking it just a general question. When will the tourism will be regularly running again? So, Edwin, can you speak on that? We know there is no definite time, but can you give us some take on how long it's going to take?
It's a good question, and I think the whole world wants
short.
to know the answer.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, when tourism will be running, that's, I mean, in Myanmar, it's not sure. I do think with the whole world thinks that it first will be domestic tourism that starts running, and then regional tourism, and then the long haul tourism. So specifically for Myanmar, I think it's a very interesting question to see like who will make the decision. At the moment, I see that ward officers from the GAD office, they make a decision if a street is open or closed, or a village makes a decision whether a hotel can operate or not. So I think it's important now already to look at like who will be in charge to make that decision on a country level, and how will that be communicated?
Thank you. And the next question comes from Andrea Valentine. So I think also it's a good question that she's asking. She wants to know that we have only a very few data about the domestic tourism. How many tourists are traveling per year? Where are they going? How much they spending? This type of behavior. Do we have any idea where can we get this information? Is it available? Or if not, I think that would be a great thing to start doing it as well. And the question is, she said, do you have any idea on how we can use this crisis wisely to ensure that Myanmar destination develop sustainably in the future? I think Edwin and Bati, you both touch on these a little bit as well. So, but if you could add on a little bit, Bati, can you share with us?
Yeah, so the first question regarding data for domestic tourism, it's a really good question. I certainly don't have an answer to that, but it's a question that I second, because Sampan has done a lot of domestic tourism with expats living here, but we haven't done many tours for local Myanmar people. So if that is something that we are going to start doing, then certainly data will be vital for us to make those decisions and how we're going to do that. In terms of her second question, I think Edwin addressed it quite well in his response. And I would just second that by saying that a lot of these things that people are mentioning now about avoiding crowds and going to sort of second and third choice destinations and off-piste routes, these are things that were talked about anyway to try and avoid over-tourism, as was used sometimes, and trying to spread the tourism dollar throughout different communities in the country. So now there's just a greater reason to be more creative and to support other destinations within the country more than we were before. So this is just one more big reason to do what some of us were starting to do anyway.
Okay, thank you. So I think it's a good idea to the ministry or organization maybe start compiling these kind of data that regarding domestic tourism. So I think it will be a very useful, and it would be a good suggestion. Maybe we could propose from the MTM and so on. So the next question is about the hotel, and Philip, it's go to you. The question has come from Carlo, and he mentioned that hotel industry is a very difficult situation. We expect more aggressive approach to get the share of the market. Is there industry approach or plan to address the possibility of rate war, about the rate, the quotation, stuff like that? So Philip, can you answer on that one? Is there any plan or any industry approach that we have?
Just to answer on the hotel, I mean, the hotel business that we're all in, most of the hotels that are in Myanmar now are branded hotels in the main city centers. So basically, they all follow their own brand compliance with regards to rates and rate parity. So there's a lot of laws in place now, competitive laws, which actually protect the consumer very, very well from hotels colluding with one another and getting into these rate wars that used to happen many years ago. Frankly, I haven't seen one of them for many years. There was a big case in Thailand many years ago, where some hotels were fined for this. But actually, most of the hotel managers I feel they're responsible when it comes to rate. They know what their brand is. They know the value of their brand, and they're proud of their brand. And they believe when they got into the market that the rate that they're asking is a fair rate for their product. So that really, I think, should be the guiding light for everybody: is understand what your product is, who you're selling it to, and be proud of what you're doing. And I shared some good things that we can all do in terms of cleanliness and hygiene and safety. If you've got all those things in place, you'll probably be able to charge a premium for your rate. So, look at those and put them in place and you'll be fine.
Thank you very much, Carlo. I hope you hear that. So we want to end with the two question. It's short question, but it has a very, very deep meaning. So I want to start asking to Suki and Philip, so you could answer both. So both of you have lived in Myanmar for many years with a lot of experience in tourism industry, and you have seen ups and downs in Myanmar, not only Myanmar, in the whole region as well. So how do you see travel industry in Myanmar, let's say in next 3 to 5 years? Short question. First, Philip, you could start.
I'm still very positive about Myanmar for the reasons that we all know. The beauty of the people, the calmness of people here, the smile. That you don't get those in many countries around the world. So people don't really see the value of how beautiful it is when you're met by people here and how well you're looked after. So I feel that Myanmar has a very good future and really good people. As long as we as employers, particularly going through this crisis, we look after them, the ones that we have, as we say, try and keep them employed as best we can. And even if we have to lose jobs, let's reskill them and retrain them into another job in your property or around the business. Let's look after our people.
Thank you, Phil. Suki, could you add on that?
Yeah, I agree with Philip. I'm totally optimistic. What I would say is that we still only have a small number of arrivals, because I only consider we have 1.5 million a year, because I don't count border crossings. Now, if you look, many people have been to Hong Kong multiple times, Bangkok, Kuala Lumpur, etc., but they have not been to Myanmar. So we still have the novelty factor. So if we can provide a product at a fair price, which is regulated by the market, then it's a positive future.
Well, thank you very much. I hope so. It will continue that way. And the next question is to Bharti and Edwin. So I have seen your interview, both of you, Bharti and Edwin. You are always optimistic about the tourism industry in Myanmar. With all these happening around us, do you still optimist? Let's start with Bharti.
Yeah. For sure I am, and I'll reiterate what Suki and Philip has said. I think the innate charms and strengths of this country remain strong, and they will still be there after COVID. I think, as has been touched on, the important thing is looking after the young professionals in this industry and reassuring them that despite the constant battering that Myanmar tourism gets, that it is still a great industry to be in, and they have a part to play in it.
Thank you very much. Edwin, do you want to add on?
Yeah, absolutely. Very optimistic, because the people of Myanmar are very resilient. We have been going through so much shitty situations like Cyclone Nagas, and every time we come up and we become better. So I think we have an advantage in that sense compared to a lot of other countries, because we have been through these kind of difficult times. So definitely very optimistic, because the country has so much to offer in terms of nature, culture, food, people, and everything.
Thank you all very much. And I just have a last question here that coming from the Eric. He said, and Edwin, this is to you as well. So what is the marketing approach by the Myanmar tourism in these days about should we focus on the Margaret Archipelago? Because it's a less tourist travel area within Myanmar. So do you think after the post-COVID, these Margaret Archipelago, Ngapali, those areas should be on the map again?
I think the whole country should be on the map. I mean, and it's the diversity of the country, and going to the more remote places, like what we spoke about before. That's what makes the country so special, and definitely Margaret Archipelago is part of it. I think that for a lot of tour operators, don't only depend on Myanmar Tourism Marketing or Ministry to do a branding for a country, because you need a lot of money for it. It's a lot of companies who have to do their own public relations for the country, talk with journalists, talk with the media to get a positive image out of this country.
Very good. Well, thank you all very much. Thank you to all the panelists and all the audience watching online. We sincerely apologize for these technical delays, the technical errors happen. Really sincerely apologize for that. But I think it has been a very enlightening panel discussion, and we will be sharing this on the Facebook page, and please do share with others. So before closing, I would like to have just a closing remark, a few words, maybe give us some hope for the post-COVID or even during the COVID-19. So let's start with the Suki. Please, your closing remark on that.
Okay, my closing remarks,
for everyone, we're gonna
based on Buddhism,
please.
right? Everything is impermanent. So this current problem is also impermanent. Let's not just focus on the problem. Let's focus on the opportunity for us, how to improve. Let's be positive, and let's all work together as a team and improve the market for all of us. That's my
thank you.
final.
Thank you very much. Edwin, please.
Well, I think a bit like this too shall pass. We had so many problems in the past. This one will pass as well. And I hope that everybody who's working in tourism continues to work in a sustainable way and think about people and planet, not only about money and profit.
Thank you very much. We hope so too. Philip, please.
Yeah, if I can just end with my Apollo story. If you think that you're not going to get through this challenge, you're going to fail. So failure has got to be a zero option for all of us. We have to think positive and think about all the different players and all the different things we have to do and embrace the change. And if we embrace it, we'll succeed.
Thank you. Let's embrace it all together. And Pati, please.
Yeah, just to say, there will be a day when this is over and we're busy with inquiries again, and there'll be no time for those projects that you have lined up. So get working on them now before it gets busy again.
Hopefully that will be very, very soon. So on behalf of the MTM, I want to wish you all, to your family, and everyone in the tourism industry and beyond, stay safe, stay healthy. We have to be resilient, and we have to be prepared and hope for the post-COVID bounce for the tourism industry in Myanmar. So thank you all so much, all the panelists, to all the audience watching online. And please join us also on the this coming Saturday. We will have a part 5 for the COVID-19 wave and the Myanmar tourism industry. So we look forward to seeing you all again on this Saturday, 1 p.m. on the MTN Facebook. And again, deeply apologize for the technical delay that we